University of Houston. We're about to go live, so just getting things fired up. Checking our technology. Welcome if you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube Live. We're about to jump into the Zoom meeting in a few minutes. Just checking our technology. Let's take a look at our page. See if it is posting. Hey, it is. It looks like it is. Okay, so the live stream is live. And the Zoom meeting is about to launch. So welcome. We're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating today. One of our favorite topics. One of my favorite topics. So let's get started. Let me jump on over to the Zoom meeting and see who's here. We'll start that meeting. Oh, it's already going. Just need to admit some people. Okay. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. You're all early, a minute early. Hope you're doing great. Hey, Sydney, Nicholas, Charlotte. Thank you, Sydney, for punching in your attendance there, 10 a.m. By the way, can you hear me okay, Sydney? Thank you. All right. Let's see. I am not recording this meeting. I'm not recording the Zoom meeting, but this is going live to Facebook and YouTube. So for those students who are not able to be with us right now, you will have this posted on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page. So today we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. Before we get started, though, those of you who are early or on time, welcome. Thank you. If you have any questions, now's a great time to post those, and I'll be happy to jump in and answer any questions you have. So feel free. So Sydney, the minimum payment isn't typically something you have to calculate. Well, if you have a mortgage, you'll know what the minimum payment is. I'm assuming you're talking about the minimum payment on your mortgage. Could be your car payment as well. It's not really something that you needed to calculate. The whole idea of the minimum payment was just you tell the financial planning software, your plan, here's what the minimum payment is. So typically when you actually have a loan, you'll see what the minimum payment is. So sorry, Sydney, I was in the middle of answering your question and I realized my headset wasn't on. My mic is, so if somebody said anything, I didn't hear you. So thanks for whatever you said, if you said something. But anyway, Sydney, there's really nothing for you to calculate on the minimum payment. I would just look at the payment that you have scheduled on your mortgage or your car loan or your credit card, and just, select a minimum payment is typically what you have to pay. So if you have an actual credit card bill, you'll see that on the credit card bill. Hope that helps. So, but there was nothing to calculate. You can just make something up for that minimum payment, something reasonable. Hey, Alina, welcome. Welcome, everyone. So, yes, who was that? Hey, Oh, good. It's you, Alina. I'm good. Thanks for asking. All right. So now it's 10:02 a.m. We still have a couple of minutes. And if you haven't got your hot beverage, you should get a hot beverage. It's kind of chilly outside today. I rode my motorcycle to school today, which was nice, but it was cold. Hopefully it'll warm up. It looks like it's going to warm up a little bit. Okay, we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. Your homework assignment this week is all about bargaining and negotiating. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm hoping that those of you who are here are getting caught up. For those of you who had questions and some confusion around week 4 assignment, that was the parental interview, and that was the assignment that was due during the week of the snowstorm. So I know it got a little confusing. I was a little confused as well, but the basic deal was we extended week 4 assignment. So we extended it, and then we extended it again, and then this week we pretty much basically, if you didn't do the assignment, I posted a 0 in Blackboard. So that got your attention. Those of you who have not yet completed that assignment, you were given an announcement in Blackboard to do so. So I guess some of you thought that all assignments were just being eliminated for the week of the snowstorm, and that isn't what I understood. We still have some work we need to do in the course, and that particular assignment is a very important one. If you didn't do it, if you haven't done it, I would encourage you to do it. And at this point, so then week 5 and 6, that was the following week, we didn't even have class all week during the snowstorm. So for that week, I didn't assign any assignments. I just waited until the following week, and then I combined week 5 and 6. So a few of you were confused about that. And again, I can understand how that could be a little confusing. But what's not confusing is that we have an assignment each week. And we really need to keep those assignments intact because they build on one another. And so anyway, if you haven't done week 4, I would encourage you to do it. If you, today at 10 a.m., which is 5 minutes ago, today was the due date at 10 a.m. today for week 5 and 6, which was a combined assignment. So that assignment was really 2 weeks worth of assignments that were put together, but it was a really good 2 weeks to put together. So typically we do part 1 in week 5, and then we do part 2 or week 6 assignment in week 6, but we didn't do that this time. We put them together, and from what I've seen and the assignments that I've graded, especially those of you who did it early, you did a great job. You understood the purpose of the assignment. Really, the purpose of the assignment was to take 3 expenditures, and starting out, you were supposed to assume that you were graduated and you were now working in the job that you would be working in after you graduate. And so you did a little research to determine what would your income be if you had the job that you were looking for that fit into your major. You were supposed to do a little research, determine what would be a normal salary, an average salary for that particular profession, that industry. So that was the first step. Figure out how much money you would be making, should be making, hope to be making once you graduate. You come up with an income, and then you go shopping for a house. Based on your income, what do you think was a normal expenditure for a house? So if you bought a house, how much of your income, what percentage of your income should that house consume? And that number is between 26% and 28%, but I didn't tell you that. I asked you to go and figure that out on your own. So you did a great job with that for the most part. And then you were supposed to go buy a house that fit into that. So that took a little research maybe for you, but it was good research, simple, easy kind of research to figure out what kind of house you could afford. So that was the kind of the first part, is to buy a house and then buy a car. Just go spend some money on a car. And I wanted to see what you would come up with in terms of what's a normal interest rate on a car loan. What would you expect? So I didn't tell you that. I wanted you to just go show me what you would find. Some of you had a little trouble with that because you wanted more direction, but the reality is this is a real life kind of scenario where you're going to go buy a car. You find something you want, now you have to go figure out how you're going to pay for it, and so that shouldn't have been too difficult, and most of you did a great job. So then with the house and the car, there's insurance, so that obviously made a change to your expenses, and you were supposed to reflect that in your financial plan, in your portal. So most of you, again, did a great job with that, and I wasn't too strict in how I graded that assignment. I just wanted to see that you got the basic gist. So you bought a house, you bought a car, and then you went and spent some money on a credit card. And again, with the credit card, you were supposed to come up with what do you think your credit card interest rate would be, and what would the minimum payment be. And then after you do all of that, you buy the house, the car, and put some money on your credit card. You're going to go into your plan, and you're basically going to do a little debt payment strategy, which is really simple. I did a video to show you how to do that in your financial plan. But from there, then you get to see what the impact is on your plan, on your purchases over time, if you choose different payment strategies. So that was really the credit crush section of the assignment. Was first you get all this credit, you go and buy things on credit, and then you go and look at strategies for paying that credit off, paying that debt off. And so it was really just the whole assignment was for you to put yourself in a place where you're down the road pretending that you're making this amount of money, and now you're spending this amount of money on a house, a car, and credit cards. And then you take whatever your assumptions were and you apply different strategies to pay that debt off. And that's what I wanted you to see. So for the most part, you guys really got that. Some of you struggled a little bit, and so we'll continue working on that moving forward, trying to help you get a little more understanding and clarity. But I think what I'm seeing, what it looks like, is when you spend the time, just a little time understanding what it is you're trying to do, and then you go and spend a few minutes in your financial planning portal and play around with it a little bit, you will experience what the objective is, which is to see that certain decisions that you make in terms of how you manage your money has a big impact in the future on your financial situation. So the big idea in this course is to learn how to become a millionaire by the time you're 50. And so my commitment, my promise to you is to teach you the little things that you can do along the way that will make a big difference in terms of the outcome in your financial life. So you may not really understand everything you're learning all through the course, but I promise you're learning some things that if you just can grasp them and hang on to them and kind of put them away, they will come in very, very handy. So debt payment strategies, ideally you take the debt that has the highest interest rate and you pay that off first, and you see what happens. And some people call it, Dave Ramsey calls it the snowball effect. Typically, you're paying off the smallest loan first. If it's a credit card, it probably has the highest interest rate. And so by paying that off first, you eliminate that debt, and now you can take that same cash flow, that same amount of money that you already committed to paying that loan off, and you can double up on the next one and get that paid off. So now it would be probably your car payment would get paid off early. And then after that's done, you take all of that same cash flow that you normally allocated to paying your credit card and your car payment, and now you double up on your house payment. And then you just get to see what happens in your plan. With a click of a mouse, you get to see it recalculate and show you how quickly you get out of debt. and how that impacts your bottom line. And so that was the goal, and hopefully you got to experience that. So if you didn't, I'd go back, rewatch the video, the how-to video, and then play around in your plan. It's never too late to go back and learn. If you struggled with the assignment, then take what you learned, go back and play with it a little bit, and hopefully that will help. So today, we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. And again, the big idea in this course is how to become a millionaire by the time you're 50. So today's lesson, today's topic, is really probably one of the most important, in terms of moving the needle. Bargaining and negotiating is one of those things that can really impact the outcome in your financial plan. So I want to start off by kind of setting the table. And so there are 7 rules. These rules are just kind of made up rules. Like they're not, there's no 7 rules for bargaining and negotiating. What these are 7 rules, 7 things, 7 ideas, 7 concepts that over time, teaching this course and doing research and experimenting on my own and listening to your stories, these are just my 7, the top 7 things about bargaining and negotiating that I would say should be on your list. These are things that I think it would be helpful for you to know. But your list may be different than mine. Everybody's a little different. But these are kind of in the order of priority that I would say if I were mentoring you and helping you understand how negotiation works, these are the things that I would say should be on our list. So that's what we're going to talk about for the next few minutes. The 7 rules for bargaining and negotiating. And really bargaining and negotiating, kind of the same thing, little different meanings. So depending on which category we're talking about, we might be talking about bargaining, we might be talking about negotiating, but it's all kind of the same thing. So the first question, the first rule, number 1, is negotiate everything. And so let's talk about what that means. And so in order for me to, typically when I teach this, we're in a room together, and I can look around and we can have a little fun and have a little dialogue. So you guys aren't really so into dialogue in these online courses. It seems hard to get you to do that. But here's what I want you to answer in the chat box at least. If we were in a room together in class on campus, I would ask the question, I would kind of make an imaginary line down the middle of the classroom. And I would ask you to pretend you're on one side or the other side. And I would say on this side we have Group A, and on this side we have Group B. Group A would be people like Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you guys have ever had the opportunity to watch Dave Ramsey talk about bargaining and negotiating, but I've been listening to and reading and watching Dave Ramsey for way too long. I taught his course in my church for about 10 years, and we used his curriculum in this course for about 10 years, and so I watched his videos over and over and over, and after a while, anyway, Dave Ramsey, when he talks about bargaining and negotiating, he gets really excited. And you can tell that's one of his favorite topics. And so it's kind of fun to watch that section in the course, the original course. But so one of the things I learned in teaching this course is that there are really 2 groups of people. And I want to know which group you're in. Which group are you in? Are you in Group A, like Dave Ramsey, where you look forward to, you enjoy, you absolutely love to bargain and negotiate? That's Group A. So either you're on this side, Group A, or this side, Group B. Which group are you in? Group A is like Dave Ramsey. I think I'm in that group too, where I'm certainly not afraid to ask for a better deal, to try to bargain and negotiate everything. That's the group I'm in. On the other hand, my wife, Connie, she's like a lot of you may be. She's not so comfortable with bargaining and negotiating. Doesn't make sense to me, but she has a hard time. It feels awkward. She's not as confrontational. Someone told me one time I have the gift of confrontation. Not sure what that really means, except that I don't have a fear to confront or try to make a bargain and negotiate. So I want you to chime in and tell me which group you're in. So I see, Sydney, you're in group B, but you'd like to learn to become part of group A. That's awesome. And that's really, by the way, Sydney, thank you for that. And I want everyone to answer which group are you in. So far, not everyone has done that. But what I want you to know, what I'm trying to do today is to help you understand, especially those of you like Sydney who are in group B, like my wife. I want you to understand and consider what's possible if you learn a few basic things about bargaining and negotiating. So I'm going to try my best to convince you, to persuade you, to even manipulate you to try to get you to move from group B, where you're probably not engaging in bargaining and negotiating. And so this week, the lesson, the homework assignment is all about helping you feel comfortable to understand that there are some things you can do that are basically skills you can learn that are really very simple and very easy that will help you be more comfortable in Group A. So fair enough? Is that helpful? Hopefully. Are you willing to participate in that with me? I hope you are. I can't see your faces, so I'm pretending that you're there with me instead of on Netflix. So here we go. How many I'm seeing? Let me take a look here. Ashton, you don't like it. Got that. So that means you're Group B, Ashton. Olivia, Group A. I can happily take my dollars somewhere else. Yep, that's exactly right. Nicholas, you're in Group A. Like that. Alina, Group 2 for sure, but you're trying to learn the secrets to bargaining and negotiating. It's a good skill to have, and it has many benefits. Yes, indeed, absolutely. And I get that, Alina, you're not comfortable with it, so welcome to Group B. I'm not really in Group B, but I feel your pain. Actually, I don't feel your pain, which is why I'm in Group A. But nonetheless, so here's what I want you to think about. And here's another thing I want you to give me, and this is an imaginary number I'm going to ask you to give me. The imaginary number is, imagine that we're all making $100,000 a year. That's our income. Now, you guys know from last week's assignment that if you make more money, you're probably going to spend more money. So, for example, if you make $100,000 and 28% of your income typically would go to your house payment, then if you make $100,000, you would normally, reasonably, be able to afford a bigger house with a bigger house payment than someone who makes $50,000. So for this next question, I want us all to pretend that we make $100,000. Everybody's making $100,000. So my question is, for Group A versus Group B, what would you say the percentage of benefit, the percentage of results, the percentage of savings would be for Group A versus Group B? So another way of looking at that is, let's say that we all make $100,000, and let's say we're all saving 15% for our future, for whatever our goals are. We're saving 15%. Which leaves 85% of 100,000, which is 85,000 to spend. My question is, for Group A, what do you think, what is our percentage of savings or the benefit? And I know that's just, it's a random thought, really. But if you had to pick a percentage, how much do you think I would save if I was like that person in your life who is a master negotiator? You all have one. There's someone in your life that you're like, man, if I went to buy a car, I would want that person to be with me. I don't know who that person is, but I'm going to ask you to answer that question in this week's homework assignment. But right now, what I want you to do is give me a percentage to distinguish Group A versus Group B. Is there a number, a percentage that you think would be reasonable to say Group A, who negotiates and bargains everything, what's the percentage of benefit, advantage that they would have over Group B? So give me some numbers. You think it's 10%? That would be, okay, if you're spending $85,000 a year and you're able to save 10%, that's $8,500 a year. So maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's 1%. I don't know. I'm asking you to think about that and to just give me a percentage, what you think would be the benefit, the advantage for those people who've learned how to negotiate and bargain, and they're really good at it. They do it. That's my question. So Alina says 12 to 15%. That's a big range, though, Alina. Just give me one percentage that you think would be it. Sydney says 10%, but you wouldn't be surprised if it was more, especially on larger purchases. Yep. Nicholas, 15 to 20. Uh-oh, Alina, are you saying something? I missed it if you were. Cool. 11% is good. Thank you for narrowing that down. So, I don't know what the percentage is. It could be 11%, could be 10. I think I'm meeting with some folks later today who they're new clients and they're buying a house. And it's I think for me, it's a rather expensive house. It's about twice what my house would sell for if I sold my house. And so, we're meeting just to try to figure out, should we get a mortgage? Should we pay cash? How should we finance the house? What's the wisest way to move forward? But one of the things that I know as they're in the process of buying the house is that, there's a lot of things to negotiate. And it just so happens that their realtor is representing the buyer and the seller. So think about that for a minute. If you were buying a house, let's say it's $1 million house, and the person who's helping you buy the house is representing the seller, and they're going to get paid a commission from you, the buyer. Do you think that's going to put you in a place that's a big ticket item. So the point is, there are a lot of different things you can bargain and negotiate, but in that particular situation, I would say, are you bargaining and negotiating in that situation? Have you answered, which group are you in? Are you in Group A or Group B? So I'm just pointing out that, like Sydney said, larger items have a bigger potential. And you don't buy a house every day, you don't buy a house every year, but just in theory, what do you think the percentage is between Group A and Group B? And I'll tell you, I don't know what the percentage is, but I promise you, I've known enough people in my life who look at this idea of bargaining and negotiating, and in their mind, they know, they've come to believe that everything is negotiable. And those people that I know, I can think of a few that I think are way better at it than me. They get really good deals, and they like to tell you about the good deals that they get. And so all I want you to think about is, if you're in Group A versus Group B, I want you to consider the possibility of what it would mean to your life, to your financial future, to your goal that I'm assuming you have of becoming a millionaire by the time you're 50. What would it do to your goal? How would it move the needle in your financial plan if, instead of being in Group B, where you were feeling awkward and uncomfortable negotiating and bargaining, so you don't do it, but you come over to Group A? I want you to think about what that would mean for your life. And so that was the whole point of the first rule of bargaining and negotiating. It's just the mindset that everything is negotiable. Now, usually in class I would go through a list and I would ask you to give me some items that you think are not negotiable. So just think, we don't have that many folks on the Zoom call today, but if you're watching this on Facebook, leave your comment. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment in the video below and just give me a list of things, a couple, 2 or 3 or 4, whatever you can think of, things that are not negotiable, things that are not negotiable. What do you think is not negotiable? So give me a list of a couple of things. Each of you who are here today with me, you might have to pause Netflix or get off of Facebook to come back to class and give me a couple of things that you think are not negotiable. So health and car insurance. Okay, that's interesting. Olivia, thank you for that. Medical bills, food bills. Ashton, when you say food bills, I'm assuming you're thinking groceries, or are you thinking dining out? Are you thinking food that you buy from the farmer's market? I'm not sure. Food bills, kind of general. I'm assuming it's groceries. Okay, anyone else? Tuition. I always like it. Tuition, Charlotte, that's good. Groceries, coupon. Yeah. So, Olivia, that's right. Groceries. I'm going to come back to groceries in a minute. Subscriptions. Alina says subscriptions, tuition, medical bills, health, car insurance. So, I'm going to just tell you a couple of quick stories. Again, when we're in class, this is a very fun part of the exercise, because what we do is we get a list of things that are not negotiable, and they usually come from guess which group. Guess which group gives us a list of things that are not negotiable. Yep, exactly, Alina. It's Group B. And so Group B has a list of things that are not negotiable, and then we just pause and we wait, and then people in Group A who typically have been given this gift of confrontation, they're not always, but they're likely to be eager to share their list of things that they think are negotiable, things that are actually on the other group's list of things that are not negotiable, and they tell stories about how they were able to negotiate their tuition, how they were able to negotiate a much lower hospital bill, how they are able to buy groceries on sale using coupons or, compare, so groceries, I always thought, groceries not negotiable. But then I have this friend named Adam, and Adam told me, he said he liked buying meat from Walmart. I shop at H-E-B. I love H-E-B, but the truth is, when you buy meat at H-E-B, and I buy a lot of meat, I'm a meat eater, I'm not vegan, I like to barbecue, I like to smoke things on my smoker, and so I buy meat when it's on sale. But the truth is, as much as I love H-E-B, the meat that they have on sale is usually it's not high quality. It's cheap, it's edible, and if you cook it right, it tastes good, and you can trim the fat off and yada, yada, yada. But my friend Adam helped me realize, I didn't really realize this, that the quality of the meat at Walmart is typically much better than H-E-B. And so when H-E-B has a sale, if you take the coupon or the sale price, just a picture of it or whatever, they will accept that at Walmart. Now, I'm not sure they're still doing that, but at that time, it was a big item for me that I thought wasn't negotiable, and I think you can negotiate pretty much everything. But groceries was one of the things I didn't think you could until Adam told me about that. So I've done that now. I'm happy to buy meat that's on sale at H-E-B. I've gotten now at Walmart. Haven't done it since COVID. COVID changed a few things, but at any rate, that was one. Tuition is another one. I've had students tell me ways that they've negotiated their tuition, and some of them work on campus, and there's a lot of ways to bargain and negotiate. But the point is, a lot of times, and my wife had to have surgery. It wasn't really surgery. She had to have, it was kind of surgery. It was emergency. And so I took her to the hospital, to the emergency room. The doctor did the procedure right there in the emergency room, and the bill was about $20,000. Well, I offered to pay the bill cash because we have a weird kind of insurance. It's a co-op kind of deal. Anyway, I offered, I told them we were self-pay and we wanted to pay right then and there. They gave us a 70% discount. So if you say you can't negotiate on pharmaceuticals and health and hospital bills and doctor bills, I know you can. You certainly can negotiate on your phone bill, your cable bill. There's so many things you can bargain and negotiate just by thinking, hey, I should ask. So that's the first rule of, and subscriptions, I don't know, Alina, subscriptions are, sorry about that, my phone is ringing. Sorry about that. Subscriptions, I know you can get discounts on subscriptions, which is one way to bargain and negotiate. I get a lot of subscriptions, but I wait until they go on sale. I wait until they have their annual Black Friday sale or, Digital Monday, cyber deal, whatever. But so that's one thing you can consider. So that's rule number one: is negotiate everything. It's a mindset. Now, that's how I wanted to set the table. And then this one is an important one. It's called Build Your Walkaway Muscle. And this guy and I, we've been working out together for years and years, and that's not true. I don't know this guy. It's a stock image, but I thought it would make you smile. Hopefully it does, because it's just to make the point. If you don't know what your walkaway muscle is, and I think I got this from Rachel Cruz, Dave Ramsey's daughter, but the idea stuck with me, and it's an important concept in bargaining and negotiating. I can't remember who said it, but he said that you're happy to take your money somewhere else if the deal isn't good enough. I'm looking through the chat and I'm not finding it. There's a lot of chat. So anyway, that's what your walkaway muscle is. It's the ability, your inner strength to walk away. And so one of the things that happens in bargaining and negotiating for some people is, if you fall in love with the deal, if this is something you absolutely have to have, you're going to probably make a bad deal. You're not going to be able to negotiate the best outcome. So developing your walkaway muscle is a very important part of becoming an effective negotiator. Because if you believe that this is the deal you have to have, that there's not going to be another deal, whether it's a house or a car or a dress or a pair of shoes or a computer or whatever it is, if you think that this is like the last one, what happens is you get this thing called FOMO, fear of missing out, and it drives your behavior in a way, and it makes you really feel compelled to buy. And so that will ruin any bargaining or negotiating. That will ruin your ability to make a good deal, basically. So the opposite of that, fear of missing out, or the way to fight off that fear of missing out, is to develop your walkaway muscle. Your walkaway muscle gives you the ability to say, no, it's not good enough, I'll walk away. And so the reason this is number 2 on the list is because if you've ever watched one of those super negotiators, those master negotiators operate, one of the things that you'll see and you'll recognize, and I want you to develop for yourself, is this ability in a negotiation to kind of communicate with body language, with facial expression, with words. They communicate that, you know what, I don't have to have this deal. And if you watch a master negotiator long enough, you'll actually see them walk away. And I try to tell this story. I've bought a lot of cars. I've bought a lot of things in my lifetime. And there's no question in my mind that one of the most powerful things you can do in a negotiation is simply walk away. And it doesn't really end the deal. I mean, that car dealer is very likely to pick up the phone and call you. I mean, if they have your phone number, on your way home or when you get home, to say, hey, even though I told you that this was my lowest price, you walked away, and I talked to my manager, and guess what? So it works, walking away. But what works even more is having an attitude, kind of a way of being in your negotiation that communicates your walk-away muscle, the ability, your very clear willingness to walk away. So that's your walk-away muscle. That's number 2, and it comes in really handy. So I encourage you to build that walk-away muscle, and that comes into play again with the next law of bargaining and negotiating, which is very similar to the walk-away muscle, but it's I like this picture. I spent a little while looking for the right image to communicate the idea of patience in bargaining and negotiating. And if you get in a hurry, and it's very similar to the walkaway muscle, but this is something, patience, that is an inner strength. It's a characteristic. It's a discipline. And you really have to practice it and exercise it. So you first build the muscle, and I should have said practice patience, because it's something that you practice every day. It doesn't just show up in one area of your life. It becomes a way of being. The walkaway muscle is something that shows up in a negotiation. It comes in really handy, but patience is something that kind of is a foundational dynamic in your life. If you're just simply an impatient person and you're always making decisions quickly without pausing, without any patience, then it's going to affect the outcome significantly. And I know you know that. I know you know that because you've experienced that either in your own life, in your own purchases, because you've told me that, or you've seen it in someone in your family, or if in your interview with your parent or someone in your family, you probably heard that somehow echoed in their story, that being patient pays off. So that's number 3. Rule number 3 to become an effective bargainer, negotiator, is just to have patience and to practice that and learn how to become more patient. So hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully you recognize the importance of patience in the process of bargaining and negotiating. And so for those of you in Group B, that may be way too easy. It may be the opposite. It may be like, okay, you need to do the opposite. So again, these are my 7 ideas, my 7 priorities to help you become a better bargainer and negotiator. But the reality is, for some people, it would be the opposite. It'd be like, okay, I need to take action because, if you don't take action, you might miss out, and it might be a good deal. So somewhere in there's a balance. My wife has always told me, when we buy something, there's those 2 dynamics. She would walk away from everything. She would be patient until forever, and she would miss out on some really good deals. Me, on the other hand, I'm the opposite. And while I need to practice patience, I do know a good deal when I see it. That doesn't mean I haven't made bad deals. I have. But generally, typically, if it's something that I need and something that I want, something that we need, and together we decided we needed it, then, we find the deal and we do it. And that's usually me making that decision to do it, because my wife is very patient. So take that for what it's worth. Practice patience if you're in Group A. If you're in Group B, question that concept a little bit and think about why you're being patient. If it's because of fear, then don't let fear keep you from moving forward. So that's number 3, I believe. And this one, research and comparison shop. It's really important. And you know that, you guys, over the years, this is definitely not one of my strengths. I'm way better at it today, research. But when I was in college, research was much more difficult. You know, we didn't have Mr. Google. We didn't have the internet. We certainly did not have Amazon reviews. So research comes in lots of forms. And research and comparison shopping is kind of, to me, almost one and the same. So the way I look at this is you have this opportunity when you go to buy something. Like I remember I purchased a Harley Davidson motorcycle a few years back. And, you know, I bought it because it was a great deal and I wanted to have a Harley Davidson. But what I discovered pretty quickly after I purchased the Harley Davidson is that if I would have done a little more research, I would have figured out that instead of a Harley Davidson Fat Boy, which is a great bike, it's fun, it's good looking, but what I really would have enjoyed or preferred would be something with the word Street Glide in it, something that has more bells and whistles, like cruise control, a stereo, a fairing. A Fat Boy is a cool Harley Davidson. It sounds like a Harley, it runs like a Harley, it's big, it's heavy, it's a great toy. But on long trips, I would have much more enjoyed a more fully outfitted Harley, and I would have known that if I did a little research. It was the first Harley I ever bought. And so research, you know, today I read a lot of reviews before I buy something. Even if I'm buying something for $100, I still read in fact, today I'm having delivered to my house a new camping grill, gas grill for cooking when we're camping. We're going camping this weekend with our grandkids again, just a couple of days. But when you camp, you have to have a little, you know, grill to cook your steaks, your hamburgers, your hot dogs, your chicken. But what I did was I bought this grill, Cuisinart. I should show you a picture of it, but it was cheap and it was junk. It worked fine for a year, but it didn't get hot enough to cook things. And then the last cold spell I discovered, it's just, I had to throw it away. Sorry, my phone is ringing again. Let me turn my phone off. Anyway, if I would have done the research, which I did this time, I did the research and I purchased one. It cost twice as much as the first one, but I'm convinced that it's going to be more than twice as valuable because I'll actually be able to use it. So research and comparison shop. It takes time. Sorry, my phone's talking to me, Siri's talking to me. When you do the research, though, it takes time, and it is a good way to practice patience, and it will help you develop that walkaway muscle as well. So research and comparison shopping is important for more reasons than just one. Another reason that I like this one, and the reason it's on my list, is because when you do research, you gain knowledge, and knowledge is power in negotiation. So taking the time to learn about what you're buying, and even sometimes, like if you're buying a house, it's important to know why are these people selling the house. You know, we just went through Hurricane Harvey a couple of years ago, and if you're looking for a house or a car, you know, or an RV. I bought another RV this year for my daughter, and one of the things I discovered is there were a whole lot of used RVs on the market that were flooded, and people were not saying, hey, this is flooded, this is why I'm selling it. But, you know, with a little research, you could discover that this was a flooded unit. And so it's important to do some research, and obviously comparison shopping is part of that. So that's I think we're on number 4. Here's one. Don't you love the picture of the dog? That's not my dog. It's another stock photo. But so a lot of people who negotiate and bargain, especially Dave Ramsey, they say cash is king. And so this one made my list because I think it's important to talk about it for a minute. And here's what I would say is that cash used to be king. And like Dave Ramsey would point out, that if you walked into a store with $100 bills and you start laying them down, that's going to move people. And that might be true if you're in a personal transaction, but as you know, if you walk into Best Buy with cash, the person who works there could not care less if it's cash or credit card. So it's not what it used to be, and in terms of bargaining and negotiating, it still has its place. If you're buying something from me and you come with cash, I'm probably going to be a little bit more likely to make a deal if you put down cash. But on the other hand, I'm not sure I could tell the difference between a counterfeit $100 bill and a real one all the time. I think I could, but if it's a big amount, then cash is not as attractive to me. So for what it's worth, here's what I think. When you want to buy something, having the purchasing power at your disposal, that's what's king. So, for example, if you walk into a car dealer and you already have been pre-approved for the loan and you don't need their financing department, but you can call your bank and have them issue a draft to buy that vehicle while you're in the dealership, that's purchasing power. That's something you walk in with that is as powerful as cash. So while in the old days, Dave Ramsey was right, cash is king, and if you're working with certain people, that might still be true. But what's always true is when you're in a position where you can afford to buy it and you can pay for it right now, that's what gives you bargaining power. So in other words, if you walk into a car dealership and you are at their disposal for their financing, and you can't buy the whatever it is without them financing it, that's the opposite of this idea of cash is king. So just remember that when you're in a position to buy something, it's better to have saved and prepared to do that instead of going to buy something that you really can't afford or you really aren't in a position to bargain or negotiate for. It's always better to wait. And again, these kind of build on each other. So exercising patience and putting, delayed gratification pays big dividends in this whole arena of bargaining and negotiating. So that, I think, is number 6. That would have been number 5. This is number 6. Silence is golden. And I like to just think about, again, if you've ever been involved in a master negotiation, there is a place to pause and be quiet. And I liked Dave Ramsey says one thing, it's a phrase, and if you're in Group B, this is one you may want to make a note of. It's just something you can say to change the direction of a negotiation. And this is a simple thing to say, is just, that's not good enough. That's not going to work. That's just not good enough. And you can figure out 100 ways to say that, but one sentence to basically say, no, that's not good enough. Because when you say that, when you communicate that, you just put a big red stop sign in the deal, and the other person now is faced with a choice. And that choice is, okay, if it's not good enough, if there's something they can do to make the deal better, they're probably going to do it. And so that's not good enough is not really good enough. For some people, like me, imagine if I said, that's not good enough, and then I just followed it with another sentence and another sentence and another, and I just talk too much, which I do occasionally. So silence comes into play, especially after you make a statement like, that's not good enough, and then be quiet. Let the silence fill that gap. And it doesn't matter, this week, it doesn't matter what you're negotiating. This is an important skill in negotiating. And this week you're going to do in your assignment, you're going to learn from my friend Ramit Sethi. I always get his name mixed up, but he's a great guy who has this great kind of lesson on how to bargain and negotiate a salary or a raise. And it's just a great it includes all these things about negotiating and bargaining, but it's really focused on a really big important piece of your life, which is bargaining and negotiating for a raise or for the next promotion or for a job in general. And to me, that's one of the most important reasons for you to learn, especially if you're in Group B, to learn that everything is negotiable. And when it comes to your job and your pay and your benefits, those things, I promise you, are negotiable. And if you're not willing to negotiate for those things, someone in Group A will be. And so my hope for you is that you recognize that by learning a few of these basic skills and concepts related to bargaining and negotiating, you will be in a position to now practice those things, exercise those things, and do those things that will move the needle in your life. And it doesn't take a lot. So this idea of silence is golden is a very important technique. It's a very simple, easy strategy to learn, to apply. And so just think about how you could use that single sentence that I got from Dave Ramsey, and I don't know where he got it, but that's not good enough. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to say that, and you don't really need somebody like me to teach it to you. Just understand that you're basically saying, no, you're going to have to do better. I know that's not the best deal out there. And so, very respectfully saying, that's just not good enough, and then silence. So before I go on to the next one, I want to mention something I said respectfully. I believe I said that. If I didn't, I thought it. So that's not one of our top 7, but it is definitely, it could be, it should be probably, is to treat people with respect, with dignity and respect. One of the reasons I think that so many of you are in Group B is because you see bargaining and negotiating as something that's rude, that's not kind, it's disrespectful in a way. And I've seen that too. In fact, I think Dave Ramsey kind of borderline in his explanations of bargaining and negotiating sometimes is a little disrespectful in some ways, more so than what I would feel comfortable doing. But what I want you to know, no matter what you think about the range of respectability and behavior related to bargaining and negotiating, wherever you find yourself in your comfort zone, I believe everything you do in the context of bargaining and negotiating can be done with respect. Now, you may be working with someone or in a bargaining situation or a negotiation with someone who's not respectful of you. And if that's the situation, that's one reason I would say just walk away. It's probably not going to turn out well, because if you're trying to negotiate with somebody who's just trying to, face it, a lot of people are just trying to rip you off. And so, one of the best things you can do is just recognize that this is not an honest person and not a respectful person, not someone that you really want to do business with. But you can always be respectful, and I think that goes a long way with people, especially, typically you're negotiating or bargaining with someone who has something you want. So it just makes sense to treat that person with respect, and that's an important piece of this whole process of bargaining and negotiating. So silence is golden. It's probably the easiest one and the hardest one at the same time. If you don't know what I mean, then you probably don't have the same issue some of us have with silence. We talk too much. So next we have timing, and I think this is number 7. Yes, that's number 7. Timing is everything. So this one is important for a lot of reasons. First thing that comes to mind is cars. I've bought a lot of cars in my life, and I am happy to buy a car from a car dealer, because the truth is, when I want a certain car, a certain model, a certain color, a certain year, it's easier to find that car if I go to a dealer. I mean, if I decide I want to buy a white Lexus ES350 2012 with tan interior, with just over 100,000 miles, that would be the perfect car for me. It's white, so Texas, it's good for Texas. 100,000 miles. Once a car gets to 100,000 miles, the price just drops. It's the craziest thing, because a Lexus, they'll go 2, 3, 400,000 miles. But for some reason, psychologically, when a car gets to 100,000 miles, the price drops, which is, to me, the perfect time to buy a Lexus. I wouldn't buy a BMW. I wouldn't buy a Mercedes. I wouldn't buy a Well, I have bought Volvos. But what I want is a car that's well made, and Japanese cars are really well made. Lexus is a Toyota. It's the luxury version. Nissan, Acura is a Honda, Nissan, and I forgot what Nissan is, but those are what I like to buy, are those luxury Japanese cars, because I was a master mechanic for many years. I still work on cars, and I know what a good car is, and those are great cars. And so I would never buy a new car. I want to buy a 100,000 mile car. Well, here's the thing. If you're buying a car from a dealer, if you buy it at the beginning of the month or the middle of the month, you're not going to get near as good a deal as if you wait till the end of the month. So just by waiting till the end of the month, you're going to get a better deal, because they want to get that off their inventory, off their lot. They need the cash flow. And the same is true if you wait until the end of the quarter or the end of the year. They got to make their quotas too, Olivia. Have you sold cars before, or do you know someone? It's all about quotas. And now I'm talking about cars and buying cars from a car dealer, but this comes into play in lots of ways. So one of the things I do every year traditionally is, if, say, in August, September, I need something like a new gas grill or a new smoker. I like to buy cooking things, but whatever it is, maybe it's a computer, maybe it's, you name it, a new monitor. If it's August, September, I'm never going to buy something, a big ticket item in August, September. I'm going to wait. What do you think I'm going to wait for? What do you think I'm going to wait for? If I'm thinking about buying something, a consumer good in late summer, fall, I'm going to wait for Black Friday. The big sales come out. And so that's what I do. I wait for a sale, and that pays off really well. I start making a list of all the things I'm going to buy, and I just wait, and I buy them after we start to see those sales, and that usually works out really well. So timing, when it comes to bargaining and negotiating, I want you to think about just timing. Like, don't get in a hurry. That whole patience thing, that walk-away muscle, it just might not be the best time. There could be a much better time. Timing is really important, and it comes into play in lots of ways. If you're buying a house right now, it is a seller's market. And I know a lot of people have this fear of missing out, but I believe we're going to see even the price of homes come down. We saw that in 2008. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a big shift. In 2007, 2006, 2005, I remember like it was yesterday, everybody was thinking that the price of houses was going to just keep going up and up and up and up. And then it just went whoop. And so I think that's going to happen again at some point, but who knows. Anyway, timing matters. Timing right now to buy a house, in my opinion, is a little, but if you need a house, then timing is right to buy a house. If you have the money, and if you need a house, it's better than paying rent, and you'll start to build equity. So, timing is important. So those are the 7 things that I have on my list. Let's go through them real quick. Let me see if I can not make you dizzy. Timing is everything. Silence is golden. cash isn't really king, but purchasing power is certainly a big deal in bargaining and negotiating. Doing some research and comparison shopping is going to produce better results always, pretty much always. So make that part of your mindset that will help you be more comfortable going from Group B to Group A. Because if you're in Group B and you feel awkward about bargaining and negotiating, this one won't impact you at all. You can do that, and you probably are better at it than most of us in Group A. I don't know why we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about all the personal dynamics of why someone is more likely to be in Group A versus Group B, but if we did that research, we would find that people in Group A tend to be a little more extroverted, a little more quick to make decisions, and so, people in Group B tend to be more precise, more patient, more deliberate. That's not always true, but that's kind of a tendency, kind of a pattern that I've seen anyway. So all that to say, if you're in Group B and you don't feel good about, like you don't love bargaining and negotiating, you probably don't have a problem with research and comparison shopping, and that is very important to the outcome of bargaining and negotiating. So hopefully each of you will find that special someone in your life that you will become married to, which is what I did. Being married to my wife was the best thing that ever happened to me, hands down. She was a gift from God. That's what she was. And her differences, the fact that she's in Group B, really works out well for me because we balance one another. And she would say the same thing. So I hope the same for you, that you will find that sometimes your uniqueness fits really well with someone else who has different uniqueness. Maybe their strengths, maybe their weaknesses, maybe they're just differences, but they come in really handy when you put them together with another person who has the same objective and the same goals as you, and you can work together and help one another in that way. So that's my hope for you. It's got little to do, it's got a little bit to do with bargaining and negotiating. Believe me, I had to convince my wife, because with this mug, it wasn't my good looks that sold her. It was something else. I promised her I would take care of her, and she bought that. So I bargained and negotiated, and I won. I don't have a picture of my wife right now here, but I'd love to show you that. Exercising patience is what you're doing right now as I keep talking, and that's a very important part of the process. And your walk-away muscle, don't forget, it's pretty important. And if you like that picture, now's a good time to just put a comment in the chat box, because we're about to wrap up, and I'd like to know that you're watching, that you like that. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, leave a comment and tell me if you like. We got to give this guy a name. What would you call the walk-away muscle guy? I think it's a guy. Pretty sure. He's a treat. Anyway, so that's that. That's how to negotiate everything. Bargaining and negotiating. I hope you'll do it. You're welcome for the lecture. I hope it's helpful. Good luck with your homework. You're going to do a little bit more research about bargaining and negotiating. Then you're going to do a little article to tell me what you learned. And I look forward to reading those. So you guys have a great week. And yeah, we do need a crash course. No full price. You got it, Olivia. You put it on the Facebook calendar and I'll be there. You create the event and I'll be there, hopefully. You guys have a great week. I'm going to hang around for a minute. If you have any questions, post them in the chat box right now, and I'll take as much time as necessary to answer any questions you have. But otherwise, if you don't have a question, you are free to roam around the planet. And I appreciate you being here, and thanks for your help in Group Me, sharing with the students who aren't here, can't be here, or just don't want to be here, because they might have missed something that you can help them understand. And I always appreciate it when you do that. So thank you. And by the way, if you're not watching this, Zoom meeting right now. This is kind of required. This takes the place of the lectures. So if you're watching it on YouTube, you can change the speed and go double speed. If you're live, you can't. Frankly, I probably would watch it on YouTube so I could watch it at double speed, but that's just me. Those of you who take the time to be here, I sure appreciate you, and I'll see you next week. Y'all have a great weekend. I don't see any questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and start shutting things down. You guys, you too, thank you very much. You bet. Thank you. Good hearing your voice. All of you. Thank you. Take care.